Alright, I am playing a game with Swedish Chess Mafia. 15 plus 10. Hopefully it goes well for me. Let me see. I'll play the Colle system, knight to f3. Let me type. mm, Okay, back to the game. Just checking the layout. Layout looks fine. It looks off because Lichess has made updates on its layout and I'm unable to adjust it. So I'll adjust it during the game. So the bottom part should be the piece advantage while the top part also is piece advantage for my opponent. And it's currently a bit off. So hopefully it's not as bad as it looks. The timer is there, so I think the timer and the chessboard is the only thing that matters. Pawn to c5. Usually I approach it with pawn to c4. I can also play pawn to c3, playing the traditional Colle system. Hard to choose. I'll play pawn to c4. I've been practicing pawn to c4 lately instead of the traditional pawn to c3 Colle system. So we'll see how this goes. I tend to avoid the traditional line because I've had plenty of games that ended up on a draw, and I am currently playing for a win. So here I'm expecting knight to c6. The line that I don't want to see is pawn takes d4, pawn takes bishop b4 check. That's when I have to play knight fd2, which is kind of inconvenient on my king side because I don't have a defender on my h2 pawn. But we'll see what my opponent wants to do. Also, I don't need to charge my headset anymore. I've been charging it the whole evening. What I like about this game is that there's a lot of time. This is 15 plus 10, so there's an increment. Definitely a lot of time to think. Okay, knight to c6. I was expecting knight to c6 before the exchange. Should be fine too. The move that I'm afraid of is pawn to e5. This after takes, it trades the queens and he's able to pick the pawn back up. So I think I'm able to castle this turn. Yeah, I'll castle this turn just so I don't have to watch out for the check on bishop b4. Also, after queen trade, I can retake with a rook. That should be fine. I'd rather not think far way ahead during the opening and keep it simple because there's a lot of different ways to have this played. So I'll wait for my opponent's turn and think from there. So if bishop moves either d6 or e7, I am thinking of knight c3. Knight c3, castle, and then I'd like to push my pawn to d5. Because after having a knight on c3 and d5, I think I have a lot of control in the center. My opponent can also play b6, bishop b7, but that would delay his castling. So I don't know why anyone would play it that way. I'm also not afraid of just trading pawns in the center. Okay, bishop e7. I'll play knight c3 definitely. Knight c3 is what I had in mind. I'll stick with the plan. I'm assuming next move is castling, and I want to push d5. Castling, pawn to d5. I'll definitely retake with a pawn. Yeah, retake with a pawn should be fine. Now, is my opponent castling or castling pawn? Is pawn to d5 still that effective? I don't think so, because no. The point of playing pawn to d5 is that I want to have pawn to e4 follow up, but I don't have an e4 move anymore, so I might change it up to bishop f4. Yeah, I don't think it's that effective. Take pawn to d5, takes. I don't see the advantage. So I want to play bishop f4. Bishop e3 looks passive, but it defends the pawn, the isolated pawn on d4. Okay, bishop f4, queen b6 is the move that I'm afraid of, because it also attacks my pawn on b2. Okay, so this position actually has plenty of problems. After I move this bishop anywhere, my b2 pawn gets targeted with queen b6. So I gotta be careful. Bishop f4, queen b6. Queen d2. Rook d8. A lot of pressure. I don't think I want that. Is there a way to prevent it? So there's the line that I was looking. So bishop f4, queen b6, queen d2, rook d8. Hitting my pawn in the center 3 times. Rook fd1 could be a good follow-up. Actually, I think it works. Bishop f4, queen b6, queen d2, rook e8, rook f1, pawn to e5, pawn to d5. We both have passers. Yeah, let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. Let's do it. Queen b6, queen d2, rook e8, rook fd1. I think it's alright. What other moves do I have to watch out for? Knight h5. I can simply pull this back. Or I can take the knight. Both choices are fine. I just had a game exactly like this. How did it go? I'm trying to remember. Takes, bishop d3. Or bishop g3, knight takes c3, pawn takes c3, should also be fine. If I take the knight on d5, it opens up the bishop g4 line, which pins my knight. So I don't think I would want that. So it would go like this. Takes, bishop d3, bishop g4, and he just sits there. The problem with the Colle system is that you should not be allowing bishop g4, or if you do allow it, you should be comfortable pushing these pawns all the way up, and king would be on g2. Since there's an open diagonal over here that the queen can maneuver on these squares, b7, c6, or d5, then I should not be allowing bishop g4 whatsoever. So with that being said, I'll pull this bishop back to g3. Avoiding trade of knight for bishop. and also putting safety, because after bishop e3 is just my opponent can take. It makes actually bishop g3 should be fine. So this is 15 plus 10 rapid. They call it rap, but there's a lot of time, so glad I have a lot of time to think these moves. I think bishop g3 is the move here. I just don't want to allow bishop g4. Any trades on the d5 square opens up the bishop g4 line. One way to prevent it is that I have to play pawn to h3. There's a lot of issues for this opening that I have to deal with. First, there are 3 pieces eyeing on my b4 square, so I have to play a3. Second is that I want to play h3, preventing bishop g4. So there's a want and there's a need. I feel like this a3 is a priority. So I want to play a3 first, and then h3, and then consider if I want to trade on d5 square. So right now it shouldn't be an option whatsoever if I can trade on d5 or not. This looks inaccurate. I don't want to happen. Okay, so he's preparing the pawn push on e5. So there goes bishop f6 and pawn to e5. Okay, so since he's playing bishop f6, I don't have to prepare the pawn on a3. Now I can play pawn h3, bishop f6, takes, bishop d3, queen b6, it does look good. Although I'm allowing, yeah, that's another problem. It's just bishop f5. So even if I play h3, there's bishop h3, pawn to h3 preventing bishop g4. There's still bishop f5, which is still a good square for this light square bishop of his. So another option that I could have, I was planning to play knight e4, but it doesn't look that good. Knight e4, can it get attacked? e4. Maybe I should wait for bishop f6 first before playing knight e4. Because if I play knight e4, my opponent will not play bishop e6 anymore. So, bishop f6 I meant, yeah. Bishop f6 or bishop b4. Both choices for black should be good. So I'll play a waiting move, h3. It doesn't achieve anything because I'm not really expecting my opponent to, yeah. I'm not expecting my opponent to play bishop g4. Also, there's bishop f5. I just noticed it now. So, bishop f5 is unpreventable. Although after takes, I can play bishop d3. Prevents there. But then he sits on e6, stationary, while waiting for my light square bishop to move out. So it's hard to really calculate deep on what my opponent is planning. So what I want to do to accomplish at this moment is to fix one problem at a time. There's a lot of issues with this position. So an immediate pawn to a3, knight takes, I'll end up having two isolated pawns, like not connected to each other, which could be weak. So I'm waiting for him to like take over here, and then this pawn on a2 stays there. So if my knight on c3 could be taken, I don't want to push pawn to a3 yet. So yeah, I'll wait where this dark square bishop wants to go, because there's bishop b4, there's bishop f6, there's bishop f8. h3 is a good waiting move. Yeah, that's all it is. H3 waiting move. I don't really have a solid plan or attack in mind. Um, my opponent can convert to a queenside fianchetto. b6 doesn't look that good, but there is pawn to a6, pawn to b5 combination. Actually, a6, what do we do? a6. a6, do I meet it with a4? a6, a4. Hard to figure. Because after pushing a4, his knight sits on b4 permanently, and then I can't kick it out. So, I think this light square bishop retreats towards d3, regardless. Hard to decide, really. A lot of possible moves from my opponent, and I have a long time that I can wait and think. But yeah, that's all I know. Like, I can calculate like 2 moves ahead at right now. But I'm excited on what my opponent is planning to do. I can centralize my rook to e1. No, I don't know. Maybe bishop has to retreat. This bit can be. I'm afraid of this bishop on c4 being misplaced. Is it misplaced, or is it just as good as it is right there? Like, do I have to move it? Because if it's good right there, I can maybe move this rook to e1. And again, rook e1 doesn't really achieve anything. It's like I'm setting up the pieces to where it could possibly be useful. Yeah, I thought of some moves that I should be watching out for. So I cannot push this pawn because there's knight takes e3, having a knight, 2 isolated pawns. So if I keep this pawn on a2, I just have to defend the c3 pawn, and that's it. I don't have to worry about the pawn on a file. But yeah, that's what else can I move? I can move the queen. I can move these 2 rooks. I can move the bishop. Yeah, the pieces that cannot move, that don't have to move, are these 2 knights and the dark square bishop. And then the other pieces can move, and also this pawn on a2 cannot move at the moment. So when waiting for good moves, it's good to figure which pieces can move and which pieces cannot move. So I think these 3 pieces cannot move at the moment, and 1 pawn. So let's see how we go. Yeah, I'm expecting a6 b5. Also there's pawn to a5, and then knight over there. What else do I really expect? But then if he provokes my pawn to a3, yeah, okay, he's definitely going for a queenside fianchetto. So where does this bishop belong? d3 or e2? I have a feeling that this bishop belongs. I have 3 choices for this bishop. This bishop has to retreat because he's about to push the pawn. Trying to figure if I have any plans for this bishop. Actually, bishop b3. So the reason of bishop b3 is that if my opponent goes for a fianchetto structure, I don't have to be afraid of bishop f5. So I can take, and then there's no bishop f5 anymore. So before, I was afraid to open up this diagonal over here because of bishop f5 move. But if my opponent is converting to a queenside fianchetto structure, then I'll stick it in. Knight takes d5, and then pawn takes. I don't have to be afraid of that move anymore. So I think this should be good for me. Also, if I move this bishop somewhere, bishop takes, my opponent will play queen takes d5, just so this diagonal remains open on the queen's IP and Keto. So bishop b3 is the move. I can almost guarantee that this is a good move, bishop b3. Because at this point, bishop has to move. Among those three choices that I have, I think it's the best. Okay, my opponent is about to play bishop b5 or b6, depending on how defensive he wants to be. Pawn to b5 is some more aggressive line. Also gives him a choice to play queen b6 later on. This b file would be close with his own pawn, but there's an attack on this diagonal. So I'm assuming he wants... Okay. I was waiting for this move so I can play knight e4. Should I still play knight e4? Yeah, this knight was waiting. Okay. Let's play it because I planned it. And it looks good. I don't have knight takes d5 option anymore. So this might change a little bit. My plans would change just a little bit. So bishop e7 is expected. Should I play? I'm gonna play queen d2, but I'm also worried about pawn e5 push. I have enough for that. Actually, I would have enough because the rook will be blocked if bishop e7. It will be blocked right here. So queen d2, rook f d1. I can also play queen e2. Queen e2, knight f6. Knight f6, huh? Could be a problem. It's a good placement for this queen. I mean, I can almost guarantee that it should not be staying on d1. Queen e2 seems like intuitive for me. Just thinking, after queen e2, there's knight f6. Actually, let's do that. Queen e2. Knight f6, knight c... Knight f6, knight c3, knight d5. Or maybe I have to take because there are two attackers on the d4 pawn. Actually, I'm thinking about it. I might have to... Actually, this looks inaccurate because there's two attackers on the d4 pawn. I only have a knight defending it. Looks inaccurate. I'm just craving for this queen to move out of the way. Maybe queen d2 was a better move, but I'm afraid of bishop b4. And it has to move again. Maybe I should have provoked. Maybe I should have played queen d2 and provoked bishop b4. That might have been good for me. Yeah, because knight f6, I have to take. Don't I lose a pawn? I'm afraid to lose this pawn. Because there are three. Oh, he didn't play knight f6. He missed knight f6. So here I'll play rook fd1, reinforcing the center. Okay, queen e2 looks inaccurate, but my opponent missed knight f6, forcing the exchange, and bishop goes out, attacking the d4 pawn. Okay. Now it's time for me to think again. I'm considering knight e5, but after okay, there's no more knight on c3, therefore I can play pawn to a3. Okay. And there's also no access on queen d6, attacking the bishop and the pawn. I was expecting something like pawn to b5, which is a more aggressive line, since I cannot play pawn to a4 anyway. So I think pawn to b6 is also inaccurate. I'm trying to spot my inaccuracy as well as my opponents. Okay, that's a good move. Should I match it with rook ac1? Just to have a symmetrical structure here. I think I should play rook ac1. Yeah. So if this knight moves back, I'll take the rook. Let's say knight a5, actually knight a5. I'll take the rook, queen takes, bishop pulls back, and both c2 and c1 are defended by either queen or rook. What other moves? I mean, my opponent can still expand to b5 if they change their mind. But I think it's time for me to pull this bishop back to a2. All the way to safety, right there. This pawn has to stay here forever since there's a knight on d5 towards the center. So I'm preventing this knight from jumping into c3 by so I'll keep this pawn on b2. Okay. I have to pull this back. I'm just trying to solidify my position instead of coming up with creative attacks. Okay. Definitely this knight can jump now. Now that I have a potential target over there. Takes. Also, I can consider going back to c3 and then attacking this knight on d5. Because if knight takes, I have rook takes now. Yeah, let's do that actually. And I'm trying to speed up a little bit. But I think I still have a good plan. So knight takes d5, pawn takes d5. My queen moves over to a light square. Possibly to queen d3. Just so I can protect this queen f5 idea. Okay. Wait, he blocked his... That can't be right. Oh, after knight takes, there's a rook attack on my queen. I see what he's trying to do. So here I can try to play knight e5, knight takes, pawn takes. Knight e5 seems intuitive for me, just because I want to block the bishop being attacked. Also, I don't want to trade bishop for a bishop. How good is that? Takes. I might get in trouble actually. Takes. Knight takes d5, bishop takes 2. And I should pull back. I'm thinking of going back to knight e4 actually. If I want to take my bishop, I'll retake it with a knight. And it should not be damaging my structure. Knight e5 sounds ambitious, Because after knight e5, then pawn to f6, then what do? Trade a knight for a knight on c6, and it still takes my bishop on g3, ruining my structure. So, yeah. It's knight e5 sounds ambitious. Sounds good, doesn't work. That's why I didn't do it. Okay, it's bishop for a bishop. Can't be that bad. I can still work with my light square bishop. My goal is to ruin his kingside pawn structure to the point that I can line this up, queen and bishop, towards h7. I'm just thinking how I could possibly ruin his structure. I'm not worried about flagging my opponent because I think that's a lot of time. Takes. I should really take this rook because I don't want my rook to be misplaced. I want my rook on d1, so I'm putting it over there. Now knight e5 seems good because my opponent removed his knight on c6. Now I even have knight e4. Knight e4, attacking the queen. Also gives way for my queen to f3 because there's this diagonal. I need to put something on e4 to protect myself. Okay, I'm really thinking of queen f3. So tempting. Queen f3 is so tempting. I actually have a choice to play knight c4, and then there are two knights eyeing on the d6 square, so that's a good move too. Plenty of moves that I can. Queen f3 looks dangerous in many ways, or maybe that would be useful. Queen f3 or queen h5. Because I'm provoking this pawn to f6 weakness. But then my knight will be undefended. My knight on e4 will be undefended. That's what I'm afraid of. What if I prepare this bishop first? What if this bishop on a2 moves to b1, you know? Giving up too many opportunities if I move it back. You know what? Bishop b1. Defending this knight so my queen can move around somewhere it wants to go. Because right now I want to go to queen h5, but the knight will hang. And he will have a reveal attack on my queen. So, yeah, bishop b1 defends the knight. And the queen can start doing whatever it wants to do. Like queen h5. If I had bishop b1, I could have played... Okay, attacking that. Protecting d6. I really want to play queen h5. That's the purpose of why I played bishop b1 in the first place. I'll make it happen. Let's do it. I don't think there's any hanging piece at the moment. Knight on e4 is defended. Knight on e5 is defended by a pawn, backed up by a rook. Rook is defended by a queen. So everything is just connected to each other. I'm having synergy. Synergy is what you need with your pieces. Now f6 doesn't work anymore because there's queen f7 check. Okay. Does that shut down my attack? I'm afraid of this knight on e. I want to reposition this knight on e4, but I don't know where to place it. I don't have much choice actually. Okay, time is running. I gotta play a quick move like this. I think there's a quick move that doesn't get me in trouble. Is he trapping my queen? And it doesn't look trapped, so I only have one square to move. I'll move it right away. It doesn't have that many squares to move around, but I don't think it's trapped, so... This knight is covering f6 square, so he doesn't have knight f6. He doesn't have an extra attacker. Right. That's a good move. Okay. I don't have any choice but to accept it, don't I? I don't want to use my check on f6 right away. I think I have more purpose for that. Okay. Okay, I'm down a piece. But I'm attacking the pawn on h6, which could be critical. So he can save the pawn on h6 and let my rook go. Okay, he doesn't let my rook go. I'll take this. Takes, check, takes. This looks winning actually. Let me see if I calculate it properly. This looks winning. This looks winning because after bishop takes e4, bishop takes e4. There's no immediate check at the moment. Actually, there's queen h3. That could be a problem, actually. Queen g3. Take, check. Is he not afraid of this move at all? Knight g5. Oh, because I can push the pawn. But I can check. But there's a check. You can push, check. There's a check. And check is all I need. Yeah, check makes all the difference here. Check is all I need. My bishop is still under attack, so I have to be careful with this thing. I can check again. Does that achieve any? I'm checking again just so I actually have this resource of bishop c6. I have bishop c6. Should go back bishop c6. Yeah, I should play bishop c6. I just realized I have bishop c6. I'm using my resource while conserving my time. Rook e7. I don't know, bishop a4. It's like a good move, but the knight escapes. I hate that I'm letting this knight escape, because my bishop's under attack while his knight's like attempting to escape. So I need to pull this back now. Can I check him again? I really just want to not waste my time. Okay. It goes down to this time pressure where I have to move right away. There's 10-second increment where I gotta work with my clock. Okay, check. Okay, he has a check on the dark square, which is not good. Check on c1. The knight goes back. I'm attempting to go towards the center. Looks dangerous. Yeah, it looks dangerous. I don't want to do it. Yeah, king e2 looks dangerous. Oh, stay in the corner. Bishop takes. Queen. I'm thinking this has to be good. This has to be good because I'm delivering check. I need some time. Check here first, then rook blocks. I need some time. Yeah, I'm consuming my time. Okay, I'm defending this knight on f3 and pawn on h3. I'm afraid of queen c1 check Check again, h1. I'm potentially wanting to block with knight g1. The purpose of queen d5 is to buy me some time. Check. I check again, I check. I'm so afraid of this knight moves. But I don't think he has anything, actually. Because this knight blocks the queen c1 check, I don't think the knight should be there. But this is nerve-wracking. I want to play queen h5. That's why I'm making a room for my queen. Check. Check again. I think I have two checks actually. Check here first, and then queen e8. And then his king will be on. His king will be on f6. I think I'm winning a rook. No, I'm not winning a rook. Okay. I was ambitious. Okay. Again, I need to retreat my bishop like this. Only if this knight can help. No, there's no help from this knight. Yeah, this knight cannot help at all. So I'm pulling this bishop back. I don't know why I did it. But I have to move. Check. King f1. Check. Check. Have to move, unfortunately. Knight g3. Okay, this queen can access there. I have to move, I have to move. His king is exposed, as well as mine. I have a weak dark square, but I think it's manageable. Check, he picks up a pawn over there. I thought I was close to checkmate, but definitely missed something there. Should I worry about rook g7? I think that's a bait on a3. I don't think he can take that. Also, I can try to escape on king f2. Let's see what move I want. Let's see what move I want. I think I want to escape on king f2. Let's try to escape actually. This rook only has one movement, which is rook g7. Okay, I can try this out. Trying to gain some time because I don't think these moves matter. If I can gain some time, I have time to think. Okay, check speed. I can check over here. Yeah, check would give me some time to think. Use the increment. Okay. Now my queen can move around this area. He's on the dark square, so I'll stay on the dark squares. Yes, queen takes h3 if the king moves out of h-file. Okay. The queen is now in a light square, so he doesn't have a check on my dark square anymore. I can check him. Doesn't this just checkmate? It looks like a checkmate to me. Yeah, queen block, check. Checkmate, yeah? I think. Is that it? Did I make it? Did I make it alive? Alright. Let's go. I think he trapped his own. Yeah. I was expecting king g6. But then he placed his queen there, so I thought maybe I can lock this thing up. I think I did. I think I did lock him up. Alright. Good game. Alright, good game. That's pretty good. Oh, okay, what I'm about to do is to put this on an analysis board. And I prefer using the one on chess.com since that's the one that I'm used to. So I'll copy this PGN and put it on chess.com analysis and let it run for in-depth analysis. So I'll wait it out for about 3 to 5 minutes and see how it looks like. Okay, about 3 minutes of waiting from the analysis. It shows 75% accuracy versus 79. So we both missed a lot of critical moments. It was definitely winning on his side, and then it became winning on my side. I definitely missed a checkmate pattern at one point, but I cannot figure it out due to the time pressure. So let's go over with the game. d4, d5, d4, knight f6, knight f3. Yes. I'll skip the part from the opening, which I think is not that important. Okay. Here definitely pawn takes. So here, I was, what was I thinking? I was considering whether to play bishop e3 or bishop f4, but then if I play bishop e3, that looks like a defensive structure and it could be met with knight g4 and then pawn takes over here. I just don't feel like playing this structure today. Let's see how bad bishop e3 is. Actually, it's in favor of... Oh, it's alright. And then knight g4. I just don't feel like playing this. Okay, so it's about equal. It's about even to what I played, but I just don't feel like playing this structure. Bishop e3, knight g4, and then queen e1, knight takes, pawn takes, and then queen g3. I could have played that way, similar to a Grand Prix structure, but I just didn't feel like it today. Here, I'm considering taking this with a knight, but then after pawn takes, bishop d3, bishop g5, I thought it'll be much worse for me, so I didn't really accept it. What I did is I pulled back the bishop, avoiding any trade. 16 or 32. It's almost the same. I don't regret it. And then h3, just preventing this bishop g4. In case I want to open up this diagonal over here, then I don't have to deal with bishop g4. Pawn to a6. My opponent is definitely about to push pawn to b5, so I have to retreat this bishop somewhere. And I decided to play bishop b3. just because I'm trying to open this up and then my opponent will have bishop f5. I thought it would be much better for me. Okay, bishop b3 was the best. And here I thought there's like potentially 3 pieces targeting my d4 pawn. So I played knight e4, attacking this bishop on f6. So once he goes back, I didn't really have that much plan other than to solidify. And then for next move, I played queen e2, which looks inaccurate because with queen e2, I'm letting go of one defense on d4, and he could have played. So after queen e2, okay, yeah, it looks really terrible. So he could have played like knight f6, and then I am quite forced to play this. Oh, actually not. Okay. Oh, I was thinking of a different line actually. Knight takes f6, bishop takes, and that would be bad for me. I'm assuming I have to take. Otherwise, I lose the center pawn. This looks bad for me, although Eva would say the same. So queen e2, and f5, rook fd1. Turns out that this has an advantage for me. Rook ad1 is much better. I would have played rook fd1. Rook ad1 is a bit tough because I don't think I would play rook fe1 just to place one rook here, which is targeting a semi-open file on the e file. So this is a critical position actually. I don't know why rook ad1 is better than rook fd1, but I'm definitely not placing a rook on e1. Okay, queen e2 because queen is already here. Okay, queen e2. I thought pawn to b5 would be much better. How better would this be? Okay, definitely knight a5 is much better. Knight a5, bishop c2. But my opponent decided to go with a fianchetto structure, which I was expecting. I was expecting actually pawn to b5, but pawn to b6 is slightly better. So okay, my opponent actually played the right thing. Pawn to a3 because I definitely have protected this pawn on d4 already. I have this g4 protected already. There's no more bishop f5 idea because of the queenside fianchetto structure. So I thought a3 would be it would be the good time to push a3, just because there are 3 pieces hovering towards the b4 square. Rook c8, rook ac1, just to reciprocate my opponent's move. Also, if this knight moves out of the way, I can take the rook. And then this rook on d1 stays on the center, defending the center on the pawn. Center pawn on d4. Because if I let my opponent take this, I'll play rook take c1. And this pawn in the center has one less defender, which I don't intend to do so. So that's why I played rook ac1. Pawn to h6. Looks like my opponent missed knight a5 opportunity way too many times. Here I felt like I have to move this bishop because this bishop is about to be attacked with knight a5. At this point only I felt like that's the right time to pull this bishop back because I have solidified my control on the king side and the center, and now it's time to fix my queen side, which is bishop a2. And then here, I thought of this knight not being that useful anymore since I was able to kick the bishop back. So here I played knight c3. Also, I was considering to take here. After takes, there's no more bishop f5. I can also cover it with queen d3. So I was considering knight takes d5. But my opponent played something more aggressive, which is bishop d6. This bishop has to be exchanged right away, so I can take that bishop and have his queen on a dark square, but I don't have that many coverage on my dark square. So I decided not to take. Also, if I take, there's also like knight f4 idea, and which attacks my g2. That's a lot of problems if I allow my opponent's queen on a dark square. So I kept him on the light square, d7. and I played knight e4 instead. So if he takes my bishop, I'll take with a knight. And although my opponent can play knight f4, I'm able to play queen e3, and I'll keep it on this third rank somewhere here, just so I can defend this knight on f3 while I pull it back later on. So I thought this is like much better for me. Takes. I'm definitely not considering pawn takes g3, although the analysis would show that it's slightly better. It's hard to explain why it would be better because I'm letting go of the e3 control. Okay, here my opponent pulled back this knight, and as planned, if this c file ever opens up, I'll immediately take the rook, just so my rook on d file can continue to defend my pawn on d4. Takes. Here I thought, well, my opponent doesn't have any attacks going on, so I could have played bishop b1, I could have played knight e4, I could have played knight e5. All of these moves look good for me. So the evil bar starts going to black's favor at this point, negative 0.37. Not that bad, but it's just on black's favor. So I don't have any attacks going on, neither does black, so I wanted to centralize one of my knights. I decided to play knight e5 because it kicks out the queen. Also had this idea of playing queen h5 or queen f3, putting an additional attacker on the f7 square. The queen moves towards d6. I don't think queen c7 would matter that much since both are on dark squares. Knight e4, attacking the queen again, so he has to go back. Yeah, now I see queen c7 being better because this queen on d8 doesn't really have any potential there. Okay, my opponent's inaccuracy. Okay, I didn't play queen h5 because I'm afraid of this knight f4 move. So what happens if my opponent plays knight f4? Oh, so this is like an immediate attack on f7. So I didn't really have to worry about knight f4. So I could have played this. What if pawn to g6? Do I go to f3? This is so dangerous. Why would I allow this? There's a diagonal attack on f3 square. So I don't know, maybe I had 5 minutes on the clock. Maybe I should have considered this move, but it looks dangerous. Also, I don't think 5 minutes is enough to calculate whether queen f3 is a good move or not, just by judging from my opponent's diagonal on bishop b7. So that's why I didn't play this variation. Okay, instead I played bishop b1, defending this knight, and afterwards my queen can do whatever it wants since none of my pieces are hanging. Knight f5. It's just removing the block, like the blocking piece from my opponent's second rank. So I think he wants to defend the f7 square with a rook. Queen h5. I definitely think that my opponent saw this move, queen h5, because I was preparing it for so long. h5. I thought of rook c7 being much better move. Actually, it's all the same. As long as black has a piece on the second rank, defending f7 should be fine. And here, this is a blunder. There goes the blunder. So I thought this knight on e5 isn't really attacking that much anymore. I gave up on my attacks. That's why it's time to pull back because there's not an attack going on anymore. So what I should have played is knight g3, takes, and again this is counterintuitive because my pawn is going towards the king side instead of controlling the center. So yeah, also pawn to g4 is best. So let's follow the line. Pawn to g4, knight f4, attacking the queen. Queen takes f7 anyway. queen takes, knight takes, king takes, g takes f5, knight takes h3 check. Okay, what is this move? King f1. Okay, I don't see that far. I don't think I would see that far. It would look like this. g4, knight f4, queen takes, knight takes, king takes, g takes a5 check, and then over here I'm just trading pieces, but I'm avoiding the blunder. I didn't see it this far. This should have been what I've done instead of the blunder. Okay, but what happened during the game? Let's keep going. Okay, my opponent missed knight f4. I retreat. Knight f4, queen g4, bishop takes e4, bishop takes e4, h5. And again, this is a lot better for black already. Takes takes. Okay, I missed that fork. So I don't know, pawn to g4 seems to be a hard move to find for me. Going back to where I blundered, pawn to g4 is really hard. Other moves that the analysis is considering is queen g4, retreating right away, g4, king h2. Also, there is pawn to g3, queen g4. And again, pawn to g3 looks dangerous. Again, with this queenside fianchetto, I'm just afraid to move my pawn because it compromises my king's safety. So, and then the third move that is available is knight g3. So, I don't know. I don't blame myself for making that mistake. Or maybe I should not have done that attack at all. Instead here I could have just played, It's hard to tell which line I should have done. So I'll finish the analysis first and then I'll go to this move 26 to see what move variations I should have done instead. Okay, I lost a piece already, so here I just went for a counter attack queen h6. So I'm looking for like a mating pattern over here, like knight g5, knight f6 combination. I'm just hoping for the best here since I'm already down in exchange. Now, let's see. Bishop takes. My opponent is able to take the bishop, just simplifying. Okay, my opponent missed queen c1, queen c1, queen h4. That would have been a good move because it attacks my queen and it also threatens my back rank. Queen h4, knight e3, and then this knight can move and attack the bishop, and it's just more exchange, and then it will be a knight and a queen versus a rook and a queen endgame. So yeah, that rook on c1, that's a critical move. Okay, yeah, I really thought I had a mating pattern over here after pawn to f5, but I missed it. So I started with queen takes g6, king f8, and at this point I believe I have 40 seconds remaining. Check again. Knight takes e6. I was afraid of knight takes e6 because there's this what was I afraid of? Because this is a check. Okay, I calculated this line when he was in king f8. So if I did it at this point, knight takes, check, rook takes, queen takes e6, and then later on there's pawn takes e4, and I just thought this would be much worse for me because it's queen and queen and my opponent has an extra knight. But when my opponent moved towards the light square, I should have done this. Pawn takes, and then what if pawn takes e4, queen g6 check, king h8, queen takes e8. I could have won a rook. So I missed that one. Yeah, that's what I missed. So when I played bishop c6, that was a panic move. Although knight takes e6 is better. I definitely had some checkmate here. Okay, knight takes here. Oh, that's all I have to do. Move the king towards the light square. So if rook takes, queen takes with a check. And then after move here, I have something like... Okay, I even have... And takes f5. So if king g7, there's bishop d7. No. Bishop d7, blocking the queen's access towards the king side. Yeah, should have gone like this. Okay, that's what I miss. Did I miss anything here? There's actually bishop d5 instead of immediately taking. Bishop d5, queen takes e6 check. Okay, there goes the missed mate that I have. Not really mate, but it's definitely winning a piece back and exposing my opponent's king, leading to a checkmate. So all I had to do is move my opponent's king towards the light square. But I missed it. I believe here we both have 30 seconds remaining. Queen g6, queen h6, knight takes e6, and again, you just have to move his king towards the light square. Well, his king is already on the light square, so I could have just, well, I think it's just too late at this point. Queen f4. Knight f. I missed king e2. Oh. I didn't expect king e2 to be that safe. Actually, it's safe. These squares are protected. What if rook c7? I'm also afraid of rook c7. Bishop takes e6. Okay, my opponent is getting mated if king e2. Wow. Okay, I missed that one. I'm afraid to move towards the center. Also, I don't have much time, so that's why my intuitions just go towards the safety. Huh, what? Why? Oh, this is better because it would be a knight and bishop endgame against a rook. Okay, I missed that part. I missed that one. Okay. Here I thought also I had a checkmate pattern, but I didn't. It's completely safe as long as there's a rook in front of a king. I thought I had something there. And then this is a panic move. I have 10 seconds remaining. And then I thought this was a bad move, knight c1. Blocking his check potential with a queen. Queen f7. Queen f7, queen e7. Really hard to tell. Okay, here check. I had the win. Queen g6, bishop c4. Queen h5 check. Queen g5. Okay, I just had to place it on g6 and then pull the bishop back. Here I thought I would win the rook, but I didn't. Ooh, I should have pulled it back much further, but I was I don't know. Bishop c4, queen h8 check, queen e8. Okay, bishop c4 is also better because it restricts the knight's movement. It restricts the knight's movement over here. Oops. Yeah, that's another reason to play bishop c4. Yeah, if I played bishop c4, knight e2 wouldn't happen. Okay, this is slightly better. Bishop e4. Because the queen is committed on defending the g5 square, which is checkmate. That's why I'm allowed to play bishop e4. Here I thought my opponent had an opportunity to claim a draw. But he didn't. He can just go with a perpetual draw over here. But he was going for a win. I was wondering, why would you go for a win if your king is completely exposed like this and the only piece defending it is a rook? So I thought this was a bad idea for my opponent to go for a win. I mean, yeah, you have a rook for a bishop, but the king is not safe at all. So if I was black at this position, I would have just claimed a draw. Yeah, queen c5, just keep checking. Just keep checking on the dark square. Over here, this would be your check squares on the dark square. Since my queen is on the light square, I cannot defend with these checks, and you can easily claim a draw. But I don't know, rook g7 makes it look like my opponent is going for a win. So this pins my g file and also attacks the h3 pawn. So definitely my opponent is going for a win. I don't know why. Okay, queen b1 here. Here my opponent moved his queen to a light square. So this is actually a quiet move. So here, after my check got blocked, I have a lot of options to wherever I want to put my queen. And I chose a dark square because my king is about to go to a dark square and I don't want to get a draw. So I can protect my queen, I can protect my king's diagonal. That's why I moved to queen d8. And then my opponent's now on the light square, queen light square, so... And then there goes the blunder in the end, and then I found the mate. It's just unfortunate in the end that we both have 20 seconds remaining, I think, and we're living on a 10-second increment. So I want to go back to move 26 again, because a lot of unpleasant things are about to happen. So maybe if I go back a lot more, maybe here at move 23 I can find the mistake. And so here I played 95. So I should have played 95. Rook e1. Okay, rook e1. I like this idea of rook e1, queen g4. Well, hold up. If I play rook e1, I don't have a defender for the d4 pawn anymore. I'm moving queen g4, but the queen is now assigned on defending the d4 pawn. Okay, that's the alternative line. I don't think I would have played that. So I'm talking like this would be in another game. I don't know if I would play queen rook e1. Rook e1, queen g4, bishop b1, queen f4 if the knight moves away, and then knight h5. I think the point of rook e1, I think this is just a waiting move. Rook e1, bishop b1, queen g4. I think this is just a waiting move, and then the queen goes back over here just to defend it. So I'm not supposed to attack anything, but wait for my opponent to attack. I think that's the problem with the possession that I had. Okay, just to finish things up, I will go with these moments, key moments, to see if I remember how to correct my mistakes. Let's just go with the big mistakes. Okay, good mistake. Here I could have played queen h5, and then after my opponent played g6, I'll play queen f3. Also, I could have taken that pawn on h6, but then it's really hard to do. I don't really blame myself for missing this because my knight on e4 will hang. Also, there's this diagonal. So if I take that pawn, this knight on e4 seems to be hanging after this knight gets released out of this light square. That's why I missed that. I don't know, I'm looking for something to blame if I miss something. And then here, the best move is g4. And the reason I missed this is that I don't really want to open this diagonal over here. And then the alternate moves that I had, there's pawn to g3, which opens up this diagonal, and then I have to play queen g4. There's definitely not a... I'll go back to the analysis. So Moves, good moves here would be queen g4 or knight g3. So knight g3 takes away the pawn towards the center. It's really hard to play at this point. That's why I blundered this way. Or maybe I should have seen that this attack wouldn't work whatsoever because my opponent's already prepared in the c file. Okay. And then here I missed. Now earlier is the knight takes e6, but here, what did I miss here? What did I miss? I played bishop a4, but he just took my pawn on b2. Do I remember this? Is it just knight takes e6? Yeah, knight takes e6 was the move. I missed that after I place him on a light square, I can attack him with a check and then win another pawn over here. Yeah, I missed that one. This is a miswin. I believe this one is queen g6, and then if he goes over here, queen h6, and he cannot go towards the center because of this bishop. And then knight takes here, actually. And I shouldn't be afraid of rook takes because I have queen takes e6 check. So the key was to move his king on a light square and then take the pawn. Here I missed king e2. Look how safe king e2 was. I didn't expect it to be that safe. I expect the knight to defend the square, king defends that, queen defends this. It's just completely safe, and also just the knight cannot go in. The rook cannot move because of this bishop takes e6. So I missed king e2 and I blame the clock on it. Here I could have taken. After takes, it's gonna be a bishop and knight or rook endgame. Here I should have, instead of queen d5, I believe queen d7 would be much better because it restricts the king's movement in case my bishop moves away. And then here I believe the move is queen e6. No? Okay. I was wrong. What's the move here? I definitely don't want to trade queens. How about bishop e6? No, bishop e6 is what I moved. Queen f7 moves my queen closer, so if my bishop goes away, again, it restricts the king's movement. I should be restricting the king's movement instead of just hovering around. And then here I did not pull the bishop all the way back to restrict this knight. This knight moves. Instead I place it on d5. So whenever a knight is on a rim, on this rim, you should be restricting it. But I forgot to restrict it. And then here, my opponent should have just go for a perpetual draw. Check, go here. This is a draw. I was looking for a win, but looks like my opponent was also looking for a win. And then I found a checkmate. Okay, that concludes my analysis. If you're still watching, thank you so much for watching. I'm a bit tired today. I had a long day, but hopefully you guys had fun watching this, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace out.